Is anything happening? When the phone did at last connect, I hurriedly told my husband, "It seems someone broke into the chamber. Things are all disorganized. Your room seems okay, yet something might be absent. Right now I'm phoning the police." "Wait a moment," my husband replied, hesitated before imparting something I wouldn't have expected. I had let my mother linger in the room during our trip. What does that mean? I started to wonder. Maya here is my name. I work for a firm and am 32 years old. Since I graduated from university, I have been working hard. Recently, I got married 1 year ago. Tyler is your husband. He works for a company we also cooperate with. Tyler initially crossed my path when I attended a meeting at his company serving as the new project leader. Though I was anxious, he smiled warmly to me. "Nice to meet you. Tyler is me. Working with you excites me," he replied. Following some meetups over time, we became to know one another better. Tyler asked me one day following a conference, "Maya, do you now have some time? Would you want tea in a cafe, no? That sounds pleasing. I would like to go." We talked at the cafe, and his friendliness and sense of humor really appealed to me. I could relax sharing with him. "Maya," Tyler remarked after some time, "I've been hoping to get to know you better. How about dining together this weekend?" I startled and delighted myself when he stated that. "Indeed," I said, "I would love to." We then attended more dates. Tyler always was friendly and paid close attention to me. Tyler abruptly expressed his feelings about 8 months later over a dinner date. "To be really honest, Maya has always been on my mind. Will you accompany me outside? Loving you." Happy in my heart, I answered, "I love you too, Tyler. Our future together sounds exciting." Our romantic relationship formally started that moment. Tyler suggested several times as we were still courting, stating, "Maya, let us share a house. Allow us to be married." Initially, I wasn't sure. It moved somewhat quickly. Still, Tyler's great love and desire to start a life together gave me hope. I at last said one day, "Tyler, I also want to be with you going forward. Allow me to propose marriage." Tyler was ecstatic, and then our new life together started. Sharing meals, watching TV, and having talks at home with him offered me great delight after spending so long living alone. Living married with Tyler makes me very content. Still, my mother-in-law is one thing that irritates me. She's still in her 30s since she had Tyler while she was young. Tyler's single mother reared him. They live really close. She invites him, thus they go shopping together rather regularly. She struggles to let go of Tyler, maybe for this reason. She participates regularly in our marriage. For instance, she accompanied us in selecting a dining table for our new apartment and commented, "Maya, how would you like this table? I find it really amazing." I hesitated, then said, "Yes, but it might be a bit too big." She insisted, "No, a big table will make family dinners more pleasant." "Exactly, Tyler." She then turned to get his agreement. Tyler answered, "Yeah, maybe a bigger one would be better." My mother-in-law concluded. Then it settled. She also carried a spare key to our residence for some unidentified purpose. She frequently dropped over without notifying us. When I got home one day, she was cooking clam chowder in the kitchen. "Maya, welcome back. Today I'm making clam chowder," she remarked, smiling. I aimed to gently explain, "Mom, it's a bit troublesome when you come over without telling us first." She grinned back and said, "Don't be so official. We are relatives, hence it is not trouble for me to visit any time, right?" She'd also asked me to cook for her quite a bit. "Maya, kindly come to my house with Tyler and help to prepare the dinner next weekend." I stammered and said, "But you cook really well. Why should I start doing this?" "It's not about that. Young folks should work hard. It's excellent for them." Tyler was looking forward it, she said. Looking a little tense, Tyler said, "Yes, Maya, your food is consistently great. I find great excitement in it." Her meddling persisted and began to cause me anxiety. She wasn't merely meddling. She would say hurtful things and seemed angry with me most of the time. For instance, she showed up without notifying us while we recently were celebrating Tyler's birthday at our house. She exclaimed, "Happy birthday," when she arrived. Tyler said, "Oh, Mom." Seeing me, she remarked, "Oh, Maya's here too. You had today off from work?" "Indeed," I replied. "I stayed off to celebrate Tyler's birthday." She scowled and remarked, "That's a mistake. Tyler and I had decided to celebrate his birthday just by ourselves. Your presence calls off our plans." "I wish you understood that better." Calm under pressure, I answered, "But I am Tyler's wife now." She shot back, "So what if you're his wife? You seem more vital than his mother does. Your marriage is but a piece of paper. Don't lead yourself too far ahead. I brought his mother into this world." She often seemed to place her connection with Tyler before mine. She loved her son so much, hence she disliked me quite a lot. She was thus usually icy towards me. I reminded myself to keep cool and avoid jealousy. She raised Tyler alone, hence it is something to appreciate. Then, though, something occurred that I could not overlook. Last week, my grandfather handed me an old watch in the living room before he died. He handed me his oldest watch when he fell ill and had to shut his watch store. Worth more than $40,000, this antique watch was left in his will, and I should only sell it should I ever have financial problems. This watch grew to be a really unique heritage for me until he passed away. I kept it in the living room so I could be always near to him. When my mother-in-law arrived one day, she spotted the watch and attacked it. "This is what is here. Why, in the living room, retain such an old, battered watch like it has any worth?" She seemed to not get when I tried to explain that it was a unique recollection from my grandfather and a precious antique. Her contempt of the watch made me feel as though she was likewise contemptuous of my grandfather and myself. It etched a lot. Chose to stow the watch in a drawer in my room to guard it from more comments. She later laughed and asked, "What happened to that historic watch?" She seemed delighted like she had won when I told her I kept it in my room, which just made me feel worse. Tyler tried to console me after she departed by asking whether I was good. I related to him the hurt I experienced from what his mother stated. Though he listened, his response was always the same. "My mom does this because she loves me." I'm embarrassed. I was not looking for an apologies. When it came to his mother, I simply wanted his support. I knew, though, how much he valued her raising him alone and how much he loved me as well. I couldn't blame him since I realized he struggled to be caught between his mother and me. Ultimately, I felt as though my only option was to continue bearing it for his benefit. Then Tyler suddenly scheduled a week-long trip. Knowing he was trying to calm the tension with his mother, I felt so relieved and delighted. Just the two of us, we traveled, and I truly loved our time spent together. I hardly thought of my mother-in-law throughout a whole week. The days went by fast, and this was such a joyful period. At last the day arrived for our return home. Tyler had to first stop by his workplace, so I returned home by myself. I unlocked our house as I returned, considering the joyful recollections from our trip. Our known flat was here, but something felt off as soon as I entered the living room. At first, I struggled to exactly identify what it was. Feeling nervous, I looked about. 1 minute's wait. I recalled that before we left, I had carefully closed the windows and curtains, but suddenly I found the window lock undone and the curtains slightly open. Usually kept in its case, the TV remote was carefully arranged on the table. The sofa cushions were disorganized. Though not clearly, it appeared as though everything had been rearranged. Although the room was tidy, I always keep everything in order, hence these little adjustments made me quite uncomfortable. I went to the kitchen and saw some food vanished from the refrigerator. The wash basin contained watermarks, as someone had lately used it. This entails what? Looking at the entrance, nothing seemed out of place. I began to wonder whether my mother-in-law, with a spare key, had entered without notifying us. We wouldn't have left the window unlocked, though, and it didn't seem like something she would do while we were away. I thought at the time she respected our space somewhat. Then I considered it could have been a burglar, but I didn't want to accept it. Should it have been a break-in, there would be more mess, right? I tried to tell myself Tyler must have moved something before we left. Everything in the living room seemed perfect. My concern continued mounting even though I tried to persuade myself I couldn't reach Tyler, assuming someone had actually arrived. Nervous, I carefully unlocked the door to my room. What I found as I walked inside stunned me. My room was entirely disorganized. Underwear was strewn on the floor, and clothes that ought to have been carefully folded were tossed all over the bed. Things were mixed among the open drawers of the dresser. The most startling feature was my desk. Every drawer had been taken out, and the contents were scattered all about. I looked fast through the other rooms, but just my room had been singled out. Why just this space? This place has nothing very valuable. I then considered the watch my grandfather left me. No way at all. Why has it disappeared? I looked about the desk desperately, but the watch vanished from sight. I knew then the watch had been taken. Someone had clearly been in and grabbed it, but I couldn't understand why they would steal such an antique watch. I lost control and hurriedly tried once more to phone my spouse. The call made this time connected. Did something happen? He inquired. I quickly said, "It looks someone broke in. The room is disorganized. Your room seems okay. Yet something might be absent. Right now I am phoning the cops." He answered, seeming worried. "Really?" "Indeed, there is some food blacking from the refrigerator as well. Someone else has to have crept in." "Wait a minute," he murmured. "Before you call the police, I would like to see it personally. I will shortly be at home. See whether anything else is gone in meantime." "But I am so excited. This is serious. Some of my possessions are vanished," I yell. Then, in a tense voice, my husband uttered something unanticipated. "Actually, I let our mother remain in the flat during our trip." "What does you mean?" Shocked, I questioned. "She can easily travel downtown from our flat, which is near to the station. She wanted to stay here to keep it safe." "Wait, why would you decide on your own such a significant matter?" Not at all informed me. I became enraged. Knowing I got along poorly with his mother, I felt offended he hadn't given my sentiments any thought. But he only sought to cool me down, not deal with my wrath. "There's no need to be so upset," he remarked. "It has always been this. My mother visits as she chooses. Just handle it like previously." "That isn't humorous. I cannot just bear this. My mother-in-law destroyed the space. To merely accept it is ridiculous." I heard a voice behind me suddenly. "Maya, why are you so furious?" My mother-in-law was it. "Mom, are you chatting with Tyler right now?" Still irritated, I asked. She said sternly, "Why are you speaking to my son like that?" I said, "I'm annoyed because he let you stay at our house without telling me. It's not right." "How dare you?" she said sharply. "Blaming Tyler is like declaring you hate that I'm here." Unable to hold back, I added, "Honestly, I don't want you coming and going from our house whenever you feel like it." She responded sharply, "You're such a coward, Maya." "Don't communicate like that, acting like the victim. You just blame me and get enraged at Tyler for no reason. It is all in your mind." I had obviously been influenced quite strongly. I knew my mother-in-law had been the one in there. My room had been rifled. Why I was being blamed escaped me. Tyler's defense of her under the circumstances startled me even more. Tyler returned home after some time, obviously agitated, and sided with his mother, criticizing me for overreaction. find this unbelievable. Maya, he said, this is unacceptable. I could tolerate it no more. To show Tyler and his mother the clutter, I brought them into my room. When Tyler saw the condition of the room, he couldn't hide his horror, but my mother-in-law seemed hardly startled at all, almost as though she knew exactly what had happened. She became clearly the one in charge. "Mom, tell me straight out. You did this?" Tyler inquired. "You're exaggerating even if the place wasn't tidy. Not so horrible," she said dismissively. "I just forgot to clean up, that's all," my mother-in-law remarked tersely. "There won't be an issue if I clean it now, right? Anyhow, I was planning to do it later. You're becoming overly sensitive." She said she was the one who created the problem, yet she expressed no guilt at all. Tyler stood there silent, clearly uncomfortable. She began to protect herself then. "I left mine at home. I borrowed Maya's clothing. We are not particularly different in scale, hence I thought it would be reasonable. Since we are family, it seems irrational to feel offended over this. Don't you find?" Tyler started to agree with her very unexpectedly. "I suppose so. You cannot attribute everything to my mother based alone on a few missing items. Families borrow stuff on a regular basis. It's unusual not to pardon a little mess." I had been hoping for both of their apologies. It was quite the reverse instead. Though it was obvious she had messed up my room, Tyler even requested me to apologize to his mother for my nasty remarks and attitude. Seeing him so fervently back her caused my affections for him to wane. Inside, I began to feel empty. Though the truth was different, I had always thought Tyler loved me just as much as he loved his mother. He eagerly accused me and obviously sided with her to avoid any criticism towards himself. Neglected and devastated, I chose to stand up for myself at that same time. I could not keep suppressing for Tyler's benefit anymore. I had already calculated my next action before Tyler came back. Turning to my mother-in-law, I inquired straightforwardly, "Where did you take my watch?" Though she seemed anxious, she responded, "I have no idea about a watch. Why would I be interested in an antiquated object?" But her response pointed her away. She had stolen it, I was sure. Whatever Tyler said, I was not going to pardon her. I gently pressed her once more. "You confess you left this room messy. You have to know where the items missing are." Tyler launched himself in defense of her. "Hey, cut off accusing my mother. Is it worth becoming this offended over only a watch if she claims she forgot? Let's drop this. I'll purchase you a new watch if you truly want one that much." "Stop interfering, Tyler," I insisted. "That watch is only one item remaining from my grandfather. It is not replaceable. I'll not stop till I have it back." "I am not a stealer. Your noise level is excessive," my mother-in-law responded defensively. "It's good to be noisy if you didn't steal it," I said. "Then we have to take into account that someone else broke in. In such scenario, I have to notify the police right away. They can look, fingerprint take, and assist us in rapidly locating the offender." I went outside the room taking my phone. At that moment, my mother-in-law rushed to stop me. "Please wait. The cops are not needed called upon here. To be honest, I did borrow it, but I'll return it in a week, okay?" "Just a moment ago, you said you knew nothing about it," I said. "And please don't use the word borrowed. Taking something without permission is stealing. You've just admitted to stealing it. The watch comes from where? It's incredibly important to me, and I need it back now. I can't wait a week." She started sweating, looking more and more scared. "It's impossible," she said. "Why is that?" I asked, experiencing a sensation of dread. "Because I have sold it to a pawn shop." "What? Really? You sold it?" "Yes, it sold for $40,000. Can you believe it? It didn't seem worth that much." "Stop joking. Can you right now return the $40,000? I asked. "I'll go to the pawn shop myself to get it back. "Oh, well, I'm sorry, but that's impossible," she muttered. "I've already spent most of the money, and there's only a little left. You'll have to locate the money yourself." Seeing her sarcastic and contemptuous attitude, I concluded there was no purpose in prolonging the talk. I made up my mind to take the ultimate step. "I see. This was your final chance," I said gently. I dialed the cops. "Hello, I'm the individual who called earlier. Unfortunately, a theft has occurred, and the person guilty is here. Kindly arrive immediately." After the call, Tyler and his mother hurried up to me in a panic. "Who did you just call?" they questioned. "I called the police," I explained. "I have told them about the situation, and they urged me to check things out first. Now that it's evident you took my watch and sold it without authorization, I've reported it. Not only did you take it, but you also sold it and used the money for yourself. That represents a crime." She said, "What are you talking about?" sharply. "I was tending to your needs. I turned that old, useless object into money for you, and instead of thanks you contacted the cops. Maya, I find amazing. Is this not too extreme?" Tyler followed up. "My mother is your family too." "Family?" Feeling wounded, I said, "I cannot count someone as family who takes from me and shows no guilt about it. She belongs in crime. An offender." "Not at all. I have explained it several times," she objected. "But I had already made my decision." "I haven't done anything," my mother-in-law claimed. "Well, all of this conversation has been recorded, and I plan to give it to the police as evidence," I said calmly. "You shouldn't underestimate the police. Once they review the fingerprints and the pawn shop's video footage, it will be evident that you are the offender. Continuing to hide it will just make matters worse for you." As I spoke, a cold smile on my face. Both my mother-in-law and my husband exhibited their anger. "This is ridiculous. Just because I borrowed it, it's come to this? Are you serious?" she fumed. My husband added, "If you do this, I won't hesitate to consider divorce. Is that what you want?" "You'll be in danger, too, if we get a divorce." It appeared they hoped the word divorce would terrify me into backing down. But I maintained calm and replied, "I don't mind at all. What's more concerning is that your mother is a criminal. I've been ready for divorce from the start." "Wait, please. The divorce discussion was simply a joke," my spouse said hastily, feeling concerned. I became too emotional. "Please reconsider. I'll apologize as many times as you want, but please overlook my mother's acts." As he begged, tears showed up in his eyes. Ironically, his mother should have been apologizing. She just stood there with her arms crossed, gazing at me as though to threaten me. "Your excuses are useless," I insisted. "You continuously ignore my feelings and keep protecting her. I have forgiven both of you numerous times. I'm not forgiving either of you this time." My mother-in-law was enraged, and my husband was stunned by my tough position. "Actually," I said, "before this event with the watch, your mother had injured me several times already. One paycheck, $1,000 left at home, vanished from sight. She had been around, I knew, but I had no evidence. I have been purposefully leaving phony bills all about the house since then. You would be surprised to learn that." She started to wither, clearly perspiration. "What ought I to do?" she mumbled. "What should I do?" As the truth of the matter sank in, detailed everything when the cops showed up, saying things like, "This is just a family matter, and my wife is exaggerating." Tyler and his mother tried to dispute, but the police arrested my mother-in-law on suspicion of stealing based on the state of the room and the taped discussion. Tyler accompanied her to the police station under officer direction. Later, I went to the pawn store her mother-in-law had suggested. She clearly had sold the watch at the shop. The CCTV verified it. Fortunately, my grandfather's watch remained unsold yet was still with him. I was able to get it with the officer's assistance. Although confronting my husband and mother-in-law wasn't simple, I think calling the police was the appropriate action to do. It felt like my grandfather was pleased of me when I held the watch once more. The divorce from my husband was then official. I turned aside his requests to aid his mother and to avoid the divorce. Sometimes I see him at work, but I avoid interacting with him. My boss, who knows the circumstances, manages things professionally. I spoke with him entirely through attorneys, and finally my spouse agreed to the divorce. The police acquired more data, including the statement of the pawn shop clerk, verifying the culpability of my mother-in-law. She is presently serving 4 years in prison. Her first acts were merely to annoy me, but she became greedy and spent all the money she found out the watch was worth. She lost her part-time job as a result and may find it difficult to land employment once she leaves jail. Her life was destroyed by a major crime derived from what began as small harassment. Her behaviors reveal shockingly naive stupidity. She had no savings, hence the $40,000 to pay back the pawn store fell to my ex-husband. Now working hard to cover his mother's living expenses, everyone at his company is aware of our divorce and what his mother did. This has made his life challenging and uncomfortable. I am at last free from the tension my ex-husband and his mother bring about. I'm really appreciating my freedom. Although my marriage did not live up to my expectations, it really comforts me to be able to keep the priceless watch from my beloved grandfather safe. I'm delighted to live my single life since right now I'm more concerned in myself than in love connections. Along with fresh interests and pastimes, I'm also searching for after all I have gone through. I am committed to taking care of myself and experiencing life totally as a fresh chapter in my life opens. I want to live an active, happy life and spend my days hoping and delightedly.